make sure all my feeds are there. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight for this month's Anime Twin Cities board meeting. Um, mute that. Um, yeah, sorry about that, Heather. We usually started up at 6:30, give people a chance to get in, get settled. Um, we just brought the video and audio in. Um, so let's dive right in without further delay. Um, so we're gonna first things on the agenda. Um, we're gonna kind of mix things up just a little bit here. We haven't gotten any equipment rental requests as usual. There are no planned discussions from any visiting parties, at least that we have been contacted by. Um, as far as board actions and votes, earlier just last night, less than a day ago, Anthony LeBurge, one of our 7 board members, he did resign. Fortunately, life's catching up, and he just had to kind of step away from things. So, um, at this point, that does bring us down to 6 active board members. Um, we are going to be talking among ourselves. We got one of the board members missing. Um, but as so in this position, what the bylaws do state is if an officer must be removed or resigns, which is what Anthony did in this case, the board may make an appointment of an officer to serve out the balance of the term. Upon appointment, the membership shall vote within 30 days to ratify the appointment. The secretary shall confirm the voting credentials of all members voting. The appointed officer shall be subject to a yes or no vote. If the appointed officer acquires a majority of votes, they shall serve out the balance of the term. If the appointed officer shall not acquire a majority of the votes, the board may appoint another candidate to be presented and ratified by the membership within 30 days. As this just happened last night, and if a person was elected to did receive the majority of the yes or no votes to be elected into that position, they would serve 2, at most 3 months before the end of that term. We haven't had a chance to talk about whether or not we should fill that position just for that very, very short amount of time. Um, or just wait for the elections as to avoid another big pile up of elections as we had here in the last year. So we will be getting that answer out here probably in the next week or so. Hopefully, we just, as it happened last night, have not had a chance with work life and everything to actually sit down and have that discussion yet. Anybody have any questions on that? I'm not seeing much in the chat regarding the discussion so far, so I just want to make sure everybody can hear me. Okay, nobody's saying much anything, so we'll just go on. Next thing is the open session. Reserve usually 30 minutes at the beginning of the meeting for anybody in the audience, anybody to any questions, anything they want to bring up, anything they would like to discuss that's not on the agenda. So we'll give everybody a chance here to get any of those questions or anything in. Okay, since I'm not seeing anything, we will go We'll go on. Um, Before we get into the updates, there is one thing that I wanted to bring up for the open session that I didn't really, that had passed my mind. Um, as far as the bylaws as they sit, I wanted to propose a change to the bylaws. Right now, we have a definition of quorum to be 5 out of 7, or five. We right now our definition of quorum, which is we have to meet quorum in order to conduct any business such as votes or approvals during the meeting. Without quorum, all we can do is talk about things. We can have discussions, but no official decisions can be, no official business can actually be conducted. Um, Considering right now our bylaws as they sit, we only have to have at minimum 5 board members. I feel that requiring quorum to be a solid number, not a percentage, um, has so far been pretty close to a disadvantage to us. So I would like to change that to 60%, rounded rounded down to the nearest obvious whole person countable. We don't need fractions of a person in a meeting. So 60% rounded down of current elected officers and executive officers. So the board members as a whole. So, if we only have 6, then it would be we need at least 4 to conduct business, and so on and so forth, down as we go. The reason I went with 60 is because it's more than 50 and helps us prevent a tie as long as the numbers aren't, even counts of people.
Wait, you said rounded down.
Yes.
6 times 0.6 gives me 3.6. So then that gives me 3 people.
And 7 would be 4.
Yeah.
True. Okay.
So if you round up
66.
and not down, 66%. So two-thirds.
Yes,
okay.
two thirds. I wasn't sure if to go with fractions or percentages. My goal was just 2/3. I keep forgetting that 66 is 2/3. My mistake. So 2/3.
I mean, it's not.
I know.
It's 6. But All right. So 7 times 0.66 gives me 4.62. So if you round down, that's 4 still. Do we want it to be 4 when we have 7 board members? And it's still 6 times 0.66 is 3.96. So still rounding down gives you 3.
Say that again.
Yeah. You need to go to 67 at least to get.
So what we could do is we could do 60% and then round up instead of rounding down, or we could go to a different percentage.
Okay, that's okay, I'm agreeable to this. That's why discussions.
You didn't check the math with the math people first.
I'm not a math person. I'm a drill
exactly.
I'm a drill a hole and hit it with a hammer person.
Yeah.
Well, you could round up or round down if it's a half. You can go up when it's over 0.5 and down when it's under.
So just round to the nearest whole number.
So if we do 70, we could do 75% and then round down. So 3/4 instead of 2/3.
You still did 66 and you rounded to the nearest whole number. 7 would give you 5 because it would round up. 6 would round down to 4 or round up to 4, whichever way. So then I think that's pretty consistent.
So do you always want to round down or do you always want to round to the nearest whole number? Which way is easier to write?
Yeah, I think Kim's got a good idea to just round to the nearest whole number. Yeah, that's kind of what I was looking at there, Michael, is trying to stay not half, but less than 3/4. So that's kind of why I was going with the 2/3.
Mm-hmm.
make a table of needed versus active. Well, all elected board members are needed. That's why they're elected. But as far as the bylaws sit, we are required to have a minimum of the president, the treasurer, and 3 members at large for a total of 5. That is the minimum allowable. Or that is the minimum we are allowed to have in order to conduct business as a board.
Right now.
Yes, yes. And at the moment, we have been electing 7 because it's an odd number and it's harder. You can't do can't do ties. So yeah, so I would go with 2. I would go with 2/3 rounded to the nearest whole number.
Okay. Members. Closest whole person. My sentence is all screwed up now. Let me try rewriting this. Okay. So the proposal is we're proposing to change the current definition of quorum to 2/3 of the elected officers rounded to the nearest whole number.
Yes, I am agreeable with that.
Okay. So we have to vote on this, right?
Yep. So I
So
propose
all
if
in favor.
anybody. Well, somebody still has to second it.
Oh, yes.
So would anybody?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Okay.
Okay. All right. We will get something drafted up in the manner that the bylaws state to get that out to the voting membership to get that voted on.
Within the time frame in the bylaws.
Yes.
Whatever that is.
Yes, I know we got.
Ashley is not here.
Well, no, I'm looking at it. Second email.
Yeah.
It's within the month. Okay. Alrighty. So looks like nobody else has any other questions about anything. So we will go on to our coordinator updates. Anime Detour with Troy. We will start you off. You are muted, sir.
Okay. Bear with me. I'm fighting off COVID, so I've got a lot of light and sound sensitivity. But as far as an update, we're really just moving forward and focusing all of our energies on the virtual con, excuse me, which will be officially announcing we're going with. We'll still have, I don't think we've landed yet on the exact hours of operation, whether it will only be Saturday or also Friday. That will have a lot to do with us working with programming and what sort of things they have to offer. So we'll at least be able to let the public know that we are confirming that, and then we'll be able to get them information at a little bit later date. But that's really where the primary focus is going to be on the next 2 months or a little less than that. We'll try to get that put together for the community. So that's about where we're at with all of that, unless there's any questions.
Has anybody responded back to your finance email?
That's part of
Well,
the
I think
later
that one-
discussion.
Yeah, that was. I guess I didn't really need one back from that. That was more sort of a baseline informative that we could then discuss. Since I just sent it yesterday, so.
Yeah, I just wanted to, since nobody replied back to that email, I was just wondering if anybody reached out to you at least personally.
Yeah, no. But yeah, that will be folded into I'm sure the financial stuff when that comes
Okay.
up. That's it for me.
Okay. Dave, you want to lead with charities?
Yeah, well, I've prepared a letter, even though my concentration the last 2 weeks for AT and ATC was preparing the programming. But I have one email from, well, I'll talk about her later. I'll talk to her later about interest in running charities as a
Coordinator?
thank you. Coordinator, and I've prepared a letter for people who have donated in the past, explaining again this year that it's not going to be possible to make donations this year. Kim, if you could send me that list again. No, I have that list. Scratch
Okay.
it. And other than that, I've been concentrating on programming, so there's nothing really to go here. Charities won't really kick in until next con cycle, next 2022.
Okay. So then I will roll on. Kind of the same thing I've been saying with communities, communications, and SOS for the last couple of months. There really hasn't been anything going on with COVID. Things have kind of dwindled off. We're just kind of in a holding pattern. Not much we can do at this point until things start loosening up. So then that brings us over to finance. Kim, we can either, I don't know if you have a breakdown or if you just kind of want to tie that all into the whole next part, the whole deep dive, or.
I just thought that was going to be separate.
Okay. Just figured I'd ask.
Doesn't much matter to me.
Okay.
But all right, so the bank account sits at $176,369.32 as of today. And so you all should have gotten your breakdowns on Sunday. And I don't think there's anything different in them. You maybe would notice that there was a membership purchase that was me because I needed to test the links and everything. Tristan had mentioned that they weren't working. So I got them, whatever was wrong with them, I got that all fixed, and the donation link and the membership links now all work. So eventually I guess we'll start to make use of those when the memberships need to be renewed. But
We got to make sure that we send an email out about that explaining it this time so we don't have quite as much of a hiccup as we did with that last year.
yeah. And then we got a year-end donation from a check in the mail specifically for the leg account from one of our members' parents. So that was nice. And that goes, like I said, directly into the leg account. The 990 and the Minnesota Attorney General forms are completed. I had Tristan sign his portion of the state form on Sunday, or actually Acacia did, but I saw he did it. They have been filed. They have been accepted by both the IRS and the Minnesota state. So they have been sent over to IT with the request to have them posted onto the website. As far as I know, I checked before the meeting, they haven't been posted yet, but I just sent that to IT this morning. So as soon as they confirm with me that they posted them, I'll, let you guys know so that they're there and people can see them. The 1099s for the guests that their first portion of their checks were sent out at the end of January by Acacia. They were mailed. There were 9 people who cashed checks, but only 7 1099s needed to be issued because 2 of the guests were like corporations incorporated, so they didn't require 1099s. As far as I know, they've all been received. I haven't received any notification that anybody's had questions on receiving their 1099 or what, but I guess if any questions come in, I'll handle those as they come. Should all have them by now. They had to be out by the end of January. And then refunds for detour people that members that asked for refunds started last week. There haven't been a lot, way less than I kind of expected to be seen. But all the refunds have been processed as of Sunday, and there haven't been any new requests since Sunday, so kind of slowing down. Maybe there won't be a lot more coming in. It kind of depends on when registration sends out emails. But I think they have until June again this time around. So
Okay, Troy, you had your hand up.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, are we having the Anime Detour IT folks also working on the ATC website?
I guess I don't know. I just always sent it to IT. Leon moved. Sent it to IT for them to post on the website. Post on the ATC site. That's the only person I knew to send it to.
Yeah, I don't have a real good answer. I do know that, I don't think Drew might be entirely opposed to it, but we might want to check with him so that he's not doing more than he expected to do.
And not taking.
Yeah.
Last year.
What's that?
He posted it for me last year.
Drew did?
Yeah.
I don't think he was the head of. Drew wasn't the head of IT last year.
No, but by the time he was, it didn't get posted until super late because I kept reminding and asking, and nobody posted, and then eventually he did it.
Right.
Yeah, he has all the rights to approve things. So even if like we could have Kevin go in and add it because he knows how, and I have him do stuff for me sometimes. But Drew still has to go in and actually push it live because he's the only one with the ability to do that, I think. So I think sending it to him is really the only way to do it.
Well, I think I'd like to check with him because it's him and one other guy. So if he starts having to take on a glutton of work from the ATC site, that's really not what he was.
Yeah. Yeah. Can we check on that then and see if he is the only one that can approve those? I don't want to end up in that fiasco again like we've done a handful of times.
In the past, but there probably always should have been because it's created, issues in the past with just having one person doing both websites. So yeah, I'd at least want to make sure that Drew is okay with doing that, since it is different than the job description that he applied for.
So yeah, we don't want to take.
So
we don't want.
Go ahead.
And we don't want to take him for granted. We don't want to take any of our volunteers for granted.
Yeah. And Kevin did just confirm he can make the edits. He has the rights, but Drew still has to push it.
Sure. I just want to check with Drew on if that's the way that he would like it to go. Then he's acknowledged that and said that's the way he'd like it to go, and then we can just make that be the way it goes.
Okay.
Well, I just sent it to the IT email, so if I need to send it somewhere else, just let me know. I'll take care of that.
I don't think it'll be a problem. I just thought I'd double check with him so it doesn't become
Troy, if it's okay with you, I can send him an email directly, unless you prefer I go through you.
No, that's fine. You can.
Okay. I just want to make sure I'm not crossing lines. So I will get an email sent out to him tonight then to start that discussion.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that he gave the approval, and then we're all good.
Okay. Somebody raised their hands. I see several hands up still.
That was me. So is Drew the only person who has permission to actually push stuff to make it live on the website?
Based
Or do
off
we have a secondary person?
based off of Kevin's response, I would say yes. Because as far as I knew, John was stepping down from the position and had handed all the reins over to Drew to take over.
Okay. It might be worth our while to look into getting a second person to be able to do that, because if something happens to Drew,
Fail safes are good.
I mean, I would hate for anything to happen, but as a backup,
Yes.
it might be a good idea to look into that.
Yeah, that'll be part of the discussion. I'm sure.
I mean, maybe the current president should have that permission as well.
Well, and I think it is. I don't know how it works at all, but every time I try and find out about it, I get really confused. There's Dockers and all this weird IT jargon that I don't understand. I don't know if it's just as easy as going in and pushing a button.
Yeah,
so I don't think a lay person could be given these rights and be able to do it.
Yeah, someone such as myself. Well, I don't have as much coding or field experience as say Drew or Kevin or John. They've all shown me how to do it, and it would take me a little bit to get the hold of it. If someone say like, I don't know, Dave, what your experience with programming is, were to dive into it, just to pick on you for an example, you may not find it quite as easy.
I am old and I fear change.
Yeah.
But no, I would never know what to do. I just found out what latency meant. Meant 2 weeks ago. So yeah, I think we should try to find a second IT guy. But if you're good, that's good.
Okay. So yes, I will get that email out to him and try to at least start that conversation. So, all right then. We've only been at this for about half an hour at this point, so unless I'm sorry, Kim, were you done?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Dave, yes.
Yeah, I was looking at the expenses on your sheet, okay?
Yes.
And I was looking down to in October for the GPS contract payment. I can probably get you a better estimate because you know how 9,000 of it is the gift and 9,000 is the match.
Yep.
At this point, unless we get herd immunity right away, we're not going to make that match.
Okay.
We don't have anything.
This is my worst case so far. So.
Okay, no problem. I just wanted to let you know that seems like a high estimate for us. So.
Well, I know, but it's easier to prepare for a higher number than it is to be blindsided by a lower number.
Okay. Just let you know. But I'm done.
Thank you.
Okay. So at that point, that kind of rounds out everything else we had on the list for the day. Does anybody feel they need to take a quick bathroom break or anything, rehydrate before we roll in this? It's only been about 30 minutes.
I think trying to push this through. Sorry. Go ahead. I think just trying to push this through. I don't know if anybody else needs to, but we want to make sure we can get Troy's input before he dies.
Fair.
Yeah.
Because.
Well, let's be honest. Troy's got a. We were talking earlier about who's got a big mouth and who's got a small mouth, and I think Troy may have one of the loudest and most vocal among us. So even if he dies, I'm pretty sure his ghost would come back and yell at us for something every now and then.
Oh, definitely.
Oh, I plan on it.
So,
I guess I didn't put this on the agenda, but I guess I should check in. Have you guys talked about doing stuff for like the running for candidacy and annual meeting discussion? Because we're technically talking about that in March, but I just want to make sure.
Troy and I were working on it, but then Troy got the COVID, so I didn't want to press him. As soon as he's done and feels good enough, I've got a proposal. He sent me his proposal. We're gonna do this, but I just, look at that guy.
And I mean, if you guys want to just put stuff in the Slack chat, we can go over it between meetings.
Okay.
If you want feedback, I don't know.
Okay.
Group discussions.
Yeah. Okay. That's all right. That should be good. Sorry.
Okay. Nope. That's fine.
I'd like to call attention to the YouTube chat where Nikita says he'll take over if I die. So you have
That is
that.
true. He did put it in writing.
See,
And
see,
two brute.
You have that as a matter of record.
see. Here's where we have a problem, though. And I know we don't have this. It's not a written rule, but it's kind of been the rule of the con. You keep what you kill. So unless he's the one that kills you, doesn't COVID get the job?
I guess.
I don't want COVID running Detour. Sorry.
Mm.
So, all right then. So we can roll into the deep dive here. Either Kim, I don't know if
I sent you the updated sheet this morning with some changes.
Yep,
I
just
don't know
gotta-
how to screen, so I'm kind of useless there. Unless the viewers aren't going to see it, I guess it doesn't.
No, the
Well,
only. So I'm comfortable with it. The only reason I know some of these numbers we haven't shown in the past was because I know, as I and some of you have stated and Troy has stated, we weren't always comfortable discussing some of the finer details like price and everything of our hotel contracts. So, as those numbers are listed in there, that I want to make sure it's okay with everybody before I start sharing putting those numbers up on screen.
I guess I don't have a problem. Or do you care that I put the Hyatt numbers in there?
I can put them on. I can just pull it up, do a quick edit, and
But you can't because the sheet is blocked.
Oh.
It's protected.
Okay.
So, quick question. Does our contract with the Hyatt prevent us from sharing our
Is there like an NDA or something? I
You know, there might not be an NDA, but it might just fall more on like I don't particularly have an issue, but it wouldn't be me that has an issue. So what it could do is, it could cause issue with the Hyatt, wherein if somebody sees the pricing that we're getting and they're paying more, they might use that as a way of going back to the Hyatt and saying, "Hey, but you're only charging Detour this much." Again, the odds of that happening might be slim, but yeah, there isn't, to my knowledge.
It's not the whole contract price. It's just the payment schedule.
I mean, ultimately, we're going to have to talk about that, and there's really not going to be a way for us to talk about it
Yeah, I think we should
at
just
a board level without stipulating what needs to be paid. So I don't have an issue addressing those numbers.
Okay. All right. Well, then, if everybody's all right with that, give me a second, and I can get that.
I made a couple of adjustments while you work on it, Tristan. I made a couple of adjustments to it. I added, I split out the registration estimates and refunds in the February column to
Why are
show
you
what
opening?
actually have been to date through today, what's been paid out of the bank account, and then I added in an estimate as to what might come in for the rest of this month. And then I upped the registration estimates refunds for March and April because people thought they seemed a little low. I removed the amounts for ASIN and Convergence since it sounded like that there was no desire to move forward with those. And I got the actual bill from State Farm today, so I know exactly what our insurance cost is going to be for the storage unit in March. So that's been changed to reflect the actual amount.
Okay. So is
and so he's
sorry?
sharing this on the YouTube chat. So if you don't have the YouTube open, you
Yeah.
can't see it.
Well, I can quick send out.
Yeah. If you want
everybody.
to send that to everybody real quick. I can't remember who specifically we have an open invite out to your convention to help, though I am yet to hear anything back. Rico, if you want to send us another email about that, it may have got lost in the shuffle of things. We'd be glad to have some sort of a discussion. If not at the ATC level, at least send it to the Troy as the detour coordinator.
I think I had sent it to you as sort of the tech person working on the virtual con.
I may have forgotten about it in the shuffle of work.
Yep.
Okay, so I will go look through my emails tonight and go back over that. Okay, so I don't know if you want to go over this a month at a time. I know Kim, you kind of went over things as a whole. How would you like to approach this?
No, I guess I don't know. I mean, mostly everything is a standard monthly expense outside of registration, maybe a few things here or there.
Okay.
I guess
Okay.
And maybe there's things that are missing that will need to be added in. Like I said, I didn't know what expenses will come from Detour, but it sounds like we're not going with some of those virtual like Sketch or whatever for a virtual con that were originally thought of during the budget period. So I guess it's a good thing those things are not there.
There we go.
There we go.
Okay. No. Let's go back to you. Okay.
So I don't know if there's a question on something or. I mean, there are some things that maybe people wouldn't know about. Maybe like April, Lauren set up an online store, and she originally budgeted for supplies to ship out things that might get purchased. This is what she budgeted for the entire con cycle, and I just put it in April in an entire month. As maybe that store gets going, that expense will be spread out and will show up in multiple months depending on how she has to spend money for shipping, or if she buys it all at one time. I don't know.
Okay.
Some of those things are kind of hard to know about.
Yeah.
The Hyatt stuff is the schedule that Troy gave me on Thursday. As far as I know, that's the schedule that's going to continue.
Kim, they're saying they're having a little bit of a hard time hearing you, so.
I don't know. My microphone's up as far as it can go.
Let me try this.
Maybe it's really far away. I don't know.
There, I turned up the audio in the live stream. Let me know, audience, if that helps at all. Otherwise, might just have to have you move a little bit closer. Troy, Christina, board, any of the other board members, anybody else have any questions about the numbers, explanations, or anything?
Can we scroll down to the bottom, I guess?
Yes, ma'am.
I only did go out through December.
So that, and for clarification for those, our fiscal year does it starts in September or ends in September?
It ends in September.
Okay, yes. So the end of September is the end of the 2020 fiscal year, and October 1st is the start of the 2021 fiscal year.
And as Dave mentioned, that October payment might drastically go down. It'll be somewhere between 9 and 18. Because we don't know what GPS's match portion of their grant will be.
Okay. I hear some
9.
Okay. I hear some dings of hand raising, but I can't change screens, so go
ahead, Troy. Go first.
So, not to split hairs here, but I guess, so we have this well-documented information from our treasurer about sort of projected, spendings. I guess when we talked about this a few months ago, we talked about having a plan on how to move forward that I don't think is entirely up to Kim to come up with. And it feels like we're here today under some, financial burdens, and we don't have a plan on how to deal with those to ensure that we have enough money for Anime Detour 2022. And I guess that feels like a failing.
Well, I don't think it's a failing because I saw the ideas in the letters and the emails about GoFundMe and grants that don't really apply. There's not exactly that many options that we can do. I mean, yes, we don't want a budget to start at, move the screen back up. So I think it was $79,000 in December. We'll start getting registrations in November, September, October, September, blah, blah, blah. But, there's things to do. I don't know what you do unless you wanted to get a loan.
No, I
That's
think
the only thing
straight operational expenses. That should be it. It should either be operational expenses for ATC, or it should be funneled back into Detour until such time as we are financially stable.
Oh, okay. I'm confused. Okay, these all expenses right here are ATC expenses, or which expenses here aren't mandatory?
Well, I'm not but so for example, it's my understanding that we take $15 from each badge to pay for operational expenses and some other budgetary items for other branches. I'd suggest that it doesn't seem appropriate to fund other branches if we're underfunding Anime Detour.
Oh, okay. So in other words, like when I said we're not going to do charities this year, and I don't know if we can do charities next year, we shouldn't even look at it until after the 2022. Is that what you're speaking about?
Right, until, such time where we're financially stable. I mean, Kim just said right now we have $176,000 in the account. But I think within the next 9 months, we've got like 40,000 that needs to go to the Hyatt.
And that's built into these numbers right here. If you can look into it, those are built into the numbers when we get to 79,000 in December,
right.
Not counting any income. I think you're absolutely correct. I don't know what the budgets for SOS and communities and communication.
Yes.
Okay, charity's not going to spend anything.
There were no budgets for communications, community. Social had one, but obviously they're not doing anything. They're not spending any money.
Mm-hmm.
No, and it's
thing that's for social is that meetup services, which I personally don't know how to cancel, and I don't know what it was for, but I think it's a calendar service. I guess
meetup.com.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. Heather said.
Okay, GBS has it too. It's about $98 every half year.
Yep.
And it's just so you can talk on it to say, where are we meeting this week? And honestly, it's only 98, but I don't think we need it. And all you need to do is contact whoever has the card, there's got to be a billing card for Meetup, and that could be canceled by just calling up.
It's an automatic billing, but I don't have any of the password. I can ask Heather though, if she has a username and a password when she originally set it up.
And again, it's not to be negative. While these are, appropriate numbers in our projected spending, if we as elected leadership tell our staff that we're going to have a plan, and we just don't, that's not good enough.
So the plan. Okay.
As I said, just quick. There's two things I wanted to just chip in here. One, there's a couple of things in chat. Heather, to answer your question, right now, as Kim mentioned, there's really nothing else. Nothing else is active right now. Everything's kind of on hold. And Nick, and Michael, as far as the projected income rate, I know Kim had a number on that when we were doing our budgets. I don't know the math. I would have to refer to Kim for that one. To answer your question.
What was his question?
He wants to know. His question is, what is our projected income rate? How much more attendee revenue and dealers / Artist Alley?
Oh, I would have to pull out the stuff from. We're done.
And then just to clarify for those in the audience that don't know, and Troy, this isn't nitpicking anything. So just as far as the $15 membership fee, that is assessed, yes, to all of the Detour badges, but that is also assessed to any other person in any other ATC branch that wishes to have things like voting rights or other ATC memberships. So it's not just a Detour specific fee. Just it's not anywhere near significantly close to Detour, but it is out. It does happen outside of just Detour. So I just want to make that clear. I can't see anybody raising their hands because I'm looking at a different screen. So
That was me. Sorry.
There is a question regarding the themes monthly services.
where is that themes
So
monthly
that
service
is-
in June?
The Acrobat.
I'm sorry, I
Adobe
couldn't
Acrobat.
hear Jim at all.
That is for Adobe Acrobat Reader. That's what they use to do the programming.
Is that Acrobat Reader or the Adobe Creative Cloud?
Oh, the Adobe Creative Cloud.
Okay, so yeah, so that's the Adobe Creative
And
Cloud, for those of you that may not be familiar, that gives them access to the suite of all a very large chunk of all the Adobe software without having to purchase each individual one.
It is
Primarily for like graphics and things like that.
Nico Loaf, just go ahead and write down your question.
Okay. So what Troy I think was trying to get to, and I think we should really drive back to, is that I think we're all agree that we should suspend budgets for anything besides Anime Detour. He's also asking for a plan, I believe, Troy, please correct me, to try to rectify it, because he's very uncomfortable with a $79,000 bank account if everything goes as planned, which it never does. That's correct, right?
Right.
Okay. My position on this is I don't know exactly what we can do except take a loan. I saw several suggestions in the emails that we went back and forth between more members. I think GoFundMe would be a horrible idea, because you're asking somebody to give money, so when November comes, they can give more money to come to our con. I think speaking as a person with experience with grants during this COVID pandemic, most grants are for payroll, which we don't have any. Nobody gets paid here. So 95% of your grant applications won't do there. Bremer had a grant application that was basically open-ended. And when I got notified of it 3 days after it opened, I came in and they said, oh, it was closed in 36 hours. Grants are going to go, especially with so many information's needed. So, Troy, you're asking for plans, and I don't know exactly where, besides taking out a loan, which I don't know if we want to do because board will be responsible for paying back the loan, where that extra money can come from. I understand that we want to be more certain, but there are only limited options. I haven't heard any option that is feasible or I really wish to consider because of what I said before about what's that, on-site fundraising.
Mm-hmm. And I can't really see the information here is too small, but I don't know if those Hyatt payments, I don't know if those are correct.
They are on there. They are on there. I see them myself.
So what are you looking for, Troy? The Hyatt payments?
They're in the correct amounts.
So we got that there.
Be at 10.
12.
And you told me that there was the signing fee for.
Yeah, so by March 21st, we'll need to pay $22,000 to the Hyatt.
That's on the budget.
So,
that's on there.
And then sorry, I was looking at the chat. And then got to do my math.
We got September and June.
Is what Troy gave me.
Hold on, I'm looking at. What are we looking at? So it looks like the more recent email I have from the Hyatt. Yeah, so it would either be that $10,000 in June, and then another 10,000 in September. All of that most likely before registration opens.
Right, and that's already budgeted into the amounts. It's
Mhm.
already on that list.
So if not, I guess, yeah. I'm just reading this email. I'll have to confirm with her, because then in the email from today, she says, you know, the $3,000 payments for those. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. That sounds wrong. Yeah, it'd be because I don't think since Kim wasn't at the last meeting when we talked about it, is that we're looking to extend our contract with them through 2025 and 2026. We can elect not to do that, and they will assess us the cancellation penalty for this year.
Which there's no question that if we want a convention at any time, we signed the contracts. They have us a bit over a barrel, but it's pandemic, and this is what happens.
Yeah, and I think when we discussed it last month, we were like, well, we don't know where else we would go at this point anyway. We all kind of liked the Hyatt, so I don't think there was an issue with that continuing.
I think the issue would be moot, because if we had to pay the cancellation fee, we're looking at $179,000, which bankrupts ATC and triggers dissolution of the charter.
Yes.
Right. So it's done. I mean, I thought, didn't we vote on this, Mr. President?
On which?
The 25-26 contracts. Do we vote on it, or does just I can't
No,
remember.
that's the chairman. The chairman makes
Okay.
the decision.
We stated our support in his decision.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm just saying, I know that Kim wasn't at the meeting, so she didn't have that information. So I'm giving her the information, as well as anybody who.
So my question, if you increase it, then does that 12,000 that I have booked in February need to be changed to 15?
No, because that should cover 23, 24, 25, and 26.
22 doesn't need to have a $3,000 one?
No, I think they're just going with that. I'll confirm, but originally she had proposed that $10,000 times 3 payment schedule. Otherwise, if they go with the normal contracted payments, it'd be that $3,000 to hold 2022, $6,500 6 months prior, and then 1 month prior, $20,500. So there's some pros and cons to, $10,000 times 3, or not as much money up front, but a big fat balloon one in March of.
That's the one we did our very first year, the big fat balloon one.
Yeah.
It looks like to me that the 12,000 in February, 10,000 in March, 10,000 in June, 10,000 September is the best deal. We should agree to that. I thought that was already agreed to by the Hyatt, but I think, I mean, heck, even if they said, no, we want all $42,000 right now, we could do that. We'd still have the same number at the end of the year, and they would be happy. But if we're going to have 12,000, 10,000, so and so forth, I thought that was a done deal. Is there an advantage to having a balloon payment, Troy or Kim?
No, I would rather go with this kind of a schedule.
Yeah, I don't like that balloon payment either, because it really shoves a lot more. Well, it's double what your last payment is supposed to have been under the other arrangement. So yeah, it's a little more.
Then we also get into the situation we had in 19 where I made those kinds of payments, and then the week of the convention they kept adding in, well, now you have to pay for the police is being added on, and I mean 3 days before the convention I was making daily payments to the Hyatt because they wanted more money.
Nature of the biz.
To keep
I'm sorry.
everyone
You
paid,
know, I
so
mean, what are you going to do?
we're
Say, oh,
pleased.
we're walking away? But hopefully by 2022, the week before the convention, we have enough in the checking account
Well,
that, we find that irritating, but not, calamitous.
Yeah, and
in my opinion.
at this point, all we would need, if we were to, and this is just me throwing out numbers here, if we were to approve the same budget for the 2022 convention that we approved for the 2021 convention, tentatively, that's what,
Was it 265?
yeah, it was around that.
so it'd be
Okay,
about
so
190-ish.
Right. And
Okay.
we can always
So-
cut. We can always cut.
Mm-hmm.
So the beginning balance for February here for $159. Or
That's the ending balance for February.
That's the
Victoria.
yeah, so that ending balance does not include what we currently owe the Hyatt then.
Yeah, it does.
It
Yeah,
would
it does.
include a $12,000
Yep.
payment to the.
That's right there. There's the second to last item on the February list.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. I just wanted to make sure that that fee was included so that we don't go on
Yep.
making.
Yep, we got the Hyatt payment there.
So if you look at the January 31st balance way at the very, very top corner, and then everything should flow down from there.
Yes.
And
So
the budgets for 2021 were 256.
So I have
256.
highlighted the entire, or all four of the Hyatt payments.
Right. Okay. So we all agree. Hold a second. This is what we need to pay. Kim's been instructed to pay it. She's put it on there. We all know that these payments need to be made in a prompt fashion. We don't want to get a reputation of, oops, we forgot, because nobody likes when people say, oops, they forgot when we're businesses, or even if we're a nonprofit. So that's all taken care of. This deep dive thing, there were some proposals. As I said, I spoke out against the online fundraising, and the grants. I looked at grants for other things. I don't see any out there. Does anybody have any other ideas? I mean,
So that's kind of where I've been hitting a wall, because I've been. This is one of the things alternative funding other than Anime Detour is something that I've been championing for nearly the 3 years I've been on the board. Every couple of months, I raise the question, and I mean, yes, I get other options. I get things from people, but it's in asking not only our members, the staff, other event organizers, everything that I've been able to find rounds down to essentially a GoFundMe, which things seem to be split. I know some people are for it, some people are against it. That's a different discussion for a different moment, maybe a little bit here. Grants, loans, which is something I am not comfortable with, just because depending on the situation, the board of directors can be held personally liable for the repayment of the loan. And that's, don't get me wrong, I love this organization, but if we take out a $200,000 loan, that is not something that I am willing to put my livelihood on the line for.
Mr. President, Troy raised his hand,
Yep. Well,
but you can't see it because you have it open.
but I'm not done yet. And then the fourth thing on the list
Okay.
would be to run additional events.
Which cost additional money and take
Yes.
additional manpower.
Exactly.
Which we have a hard problem finding people now.
So before we get to Troy, there's been a couple of questions in the chat. As far as those that are inquiring as to why we didn't bring it to the 6,000 plus members, we do what we can to make these meetings open to the public. But as far as I have been made aware, we can't just blast the entire membership with these things. We have not been given permission to just contact them with all this news and stuff. That is one of the reasons that I did not want to did not want to send out a contact to all 6,000 plus people, especially some of them maybe business partners, some of them are minors. if I'm wrong, please do enlighten me. I would like to know if I'm wrong. But I am fully willing to bring in a couple thousand people into this conversation and see where it goes. Even though the chat would get a little bit hectic. Christine, your next question is, what are we classified as, education or entertainment? We are classified as education.
Nope.
And then,
What do you mean?
No, we're not.
Okay,
I thought
501c3 that I created, that I got Barry Rogers assigned in 2006, said education.
yes.
And the propagation of audio and Japanese audio and visual culture. It was educational. That's how we got our 501c3. So unless we change the 501c3, and I'm not aware of, the IRS believes we're an educational institution.
And I'm pretty sure he is correct. I got to go find the form just to make sure, but I do remember that being our situation.
So, Kim, you had said that there were not as many requests for refunds as you had thought so far. Like, can we say roughly what we're still at for rollovers? Is it like 2,200 or 20? I can't remember what was beforehand.
Well, I don't know what that number is, but I
Okay.
can tell you that the refunds have been about 140.
Dollars?
No, 140 people.
140 people. Okay, that makes sense.
Do you
All right,
have?
so
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, didn't know we
I feel like it was at like 2,500 before or something like that. So we're still over 2,000. So I would say, probably, projected attendance, of getting more registrations, maybe 3,000, because, we're at 6,000, but we're expecting it to be less because of everything being hard. So if we do that and plan a budget sort of around that, like Dave said, if we have to make cuts to the con, we have to make cuts to the con. But I feel like looking at these numbers is not as dire as I was afraid of. Like seeing $80,000 on the last one there, it does. I don't feel as badly about it as I had before we had all this information.
Okay. Quick thing to dip back in real quick. So which page did it go to? Articles of Incorporation. Article 5, Purpose. The corporation is organized exclusively for educational, charitable, and social purposes related to the promotion and study of Japanese culture, specifically animated movies and television programs, anime, and graphic novels, manga, as well as the study of Japanese language as it is used in anime and manga. The corporation shall be authorized to make distributions that qualify as exempt organizations under Section 501c3 of the IRS code or the corresponding section of any future federal tax code. So that is
That's something written on our website.
No, that is the document submitted as part of our articles of incorporation to the state.
What date is that?
That is the original documents filed. You can find that on our documents page.
2006.
It is the first section,
I
Articles
can
of
tell you when I
Incorporation,
looked,
Part
and
3.
I'll have to go back and look. When I looked about 3 months ago, we're not listed as education. Not according to the government sites.
Then
I'll
I
forward that.
would have to go back and look at that. If that has, I had not been aware that any of that had changed.
Okay. Hey, Troy.
Hold on. One thing, Christina Nikolov, multiple people have suggested that, and multiple times we have stated those are not available. We have gone and looked at the EID, the disaster relief loans. Those accounts were emptied out essentially within a few days. We have looked at filing for them, and we have been told that they are still zeroed out, that there are none available. If that's wrong, or if I'm looking at the wrong site, please send us an email. And that's something we'll look into, but repeatedly throwing it at us and giving us that same response isn't going to help anything. Sorry to interrupt, Dave. Please continue.
Troy, so when I said it was educational, that's the document I filed back with Barry Rogers in 2006. If we've been changed on the website, I wasn't aware of that. But that was our initial intent. So I didn't know they could do that, but then again, it's the IRS and state attorney's office, so who knows? By the way, Mr. President, Troy still has his hand up.
Yeah,
Sorry, I can't. Just looking to see.
That's why I'm just telling you. I'm not saying you're bad. I'm saying
Nope,
you
there-
can't
I guess
see it.
to be honest, we've got to rid ourselves of the idea that we're ever going to get a grant. It's not going to happen.
No,
We're
it's
not set up. We don't have the infrastructure. We don't have the people willing to put in the time for that sort of effort. It is not applying for a Best Buy credit card. There's a lot more that goes into this. You need to have a relationship with the people. First of all, do you guys understand the vetting process alone would disqualify us? The ability to manage our money effectively would not ring true with these people enough to want to give us $10,000.
That's
When we donate $40,000
okay.
and we want $10,000, it's not going to go well.
We're not,
We will
but
never
the
get
grant
a grant.
would be for. We didn't donate
For what?
any money during the pandemic. I think you're just missing that
But
point.
what would the grant be for?
Well, the grant would be the operations, but I agree with you. We ain't going to get any grants. We're
There's-
educational. We're an anime convention. Nobody's going to give us a grant when there's other places that are for disadvantaged people that would need the money more. Most grants are for payroll.
Please.
I'm willing to bet that, and I could be wrong, but I'm willing to bet that I am the only person in the room who's talked with a professional grant writer, and they have literally told us not a chance in hell. It's not so, and we've been saying it now for 5 or 6 months, and so I will ask a question that I know can't be answered. We keep saying grants, grants, grants. Give me the name of one grant. I'll wait.
Well, you mean the Bremer grant?
No, give me the name of one grant that we've looked into.
Well, I looked at it for GPS.
No,
and
I'm
that
not
Bremer
even.
grant
I'm
was
not
gone.
talking about the
There-
board
I
in
didn't
general.
look-
That's for
well,
GPS,
excuse me.
not for ATC.
We've said the word grants now for 6 months, and there's not a single iota further to do with grants. So it's time to cross that off the list. It's not a valid option for us. It's not one that's going to work for us. So we got to take our eggs out of that basket. It's time to be honest about where we were at, where we're deficient, and the long, hard road out of hell here. That's
not
where we're
hell.
at.
It's not hell.
Okay.
It's a pandemic.
Kim, do you have a projection, Kim, for a rough budget that you see us starting with? Real money in the account for 2022.
You can't do real money. You keep hitting this canard that we have to have the money in the
Dave?
account in December. Well, he
Please
keeps
calm
doing
down.
it.
Yes,
keeps
I
talking
think it's a
about-
good
but-
idea to have the money because I've
but-
seen what happens when we don't.
Then there's no way to do it.
Right.
This is the money
That's
we've
what
got.
I'm telling
Without
you.
anything, there's no way to do it. So why do you keep hitting that canard? Why
Because
do
we
you
don't
keep-
have the money and everybody just buries their head in the sand and acts like it's going to be fine.
No, excuse me. We don't fear that we could go under. But sitting here and wringing our hands for 6 months that we could go under because of a pandemic isn't going to do anything. It destroys
not
morale.
because of the
I
pandemic.
don't want to come on here when you're going to say we need to have this amount of money in our banks. Can't do it. It's not going to happen. So we can either quit or we can deal with what we have.
So when we don't have the money, Dave, how would you propose that I pay guests of honor to come?
Excuse
What
me.
would you like me to pay them in?
Excuse me. So what? So where do you want it? You want to take it out of my ear? I
Well, I'm saying
understand that would be problematic. I understand that we don't have anything, but there's no option here. We didn't have a
Okay.
con last year. We're not having a paying con this year. If you're going to keep hitting us with that, we understand it. We all are mature
Well,
adults.
I don't think we understand it because, again, we told the membership that we would have a plan and we have nothing.
But there is no plan to do except wait
So-
until next year.
So that's
There's
what
no
membership
plan.
can expect of their elected board. The best way that the board can sort out an
Okay.
issue is to say, hey, I didn't know what to do.
Okay, excuse me. So what do we do? Okay, there's difference
Yo,
about trying
okay.
to ignoring things.
Hold
No,
on.
there's a different things against
Stop,
ignoring
please
things.
stop. The comments are getting kind of bad here.
If you guys aren't
Please
going to stop down, I will mute you both. And then we will continue
Seriously.
this discussion later when you can be civil.
Dave, you need to watch your tone again. and also need to stop cutting people off. Troy, you need to let Dave finish, but that also goes for Dave. This is public.
Public,
This,
public or
again,
not,
is
it doesn't
public.
matter. So, Christina, you got your hand up?
Yep, just to jump in real quick, I found this website called 501c3lookup.org, and apparently we are listed as arts, culture, and humanities.
Yep.
I mean, it makes sense.
Okay, interesting. But no, yes. So to get into some of the questions in the chat, yes, one of the things I know that we've looked at is trying to find a way to get more of a what's the word for money beforehand? Seed money. We've looked at increasing the amount of seed money we have for the event. The numbers have been debated left and right. Some people want a full year, some people want 2 years, some people want a half a year. That's a number that can be debated left and right until we come to a decision. As far as getting this money or getting to where we are at this point, yes, I fully foresee that we can find a way to plan to have to run an entire year without a paid event, and still find a way to come out of it in the black, come out of it so we can still run our event next year, maybe at a slightly diminished capacity, but still run it. 2 years without money, that is not something that I think would be reasonable for us to sit and bank on. Storing that much money as this kind of an organization can get us into some murky waters with the government. I'm not a professional. That would be more of David and Kim's ballpark. But in talking with them, as well as our own legal representatives and other financial advisors, I know that's holding enough money to go 2 or 3 years is something that can get us in trouble. Holding enough money to run a single year, that's not something I think we would have any problems with doing. That's something that I strongly believe that we should be doing. But the part of the discussion tonight is figure out how we can get to that point. I know we've looked at withholding stopping the charitable giving for we haven't agreed upon a time, but at least a year or two to make sure that we can invest that money back into the convention before we give it out to everybody else. Yes, Troy, I do agree. Grants, I've talked to our representatives over at Wells Fargo, our banking people, because they did point me at a couple of grants that Wells Fargo was doing targeted specifically at events like ours, but those were small, 5, maybe 10,000 at the most, stuff like that. Even if just sun shines and everything goes right, we were to get them, that's not something we can rely on in the long term because those are so sparse, so few, so statistically unreliable. It's not something we can focus on. So yes, at this point we do need to hold off with the other branches until we can make sure that we are financially stable. What else we can do besides that, that's part of the discussion. I've spent 3 years trying to figure it out, and I'm coming up dry. I got nothing. We can advertise, try to raise other funds. But what else can we do? We've been trimming. There's only so much more we can trim. So
Nutrition, do you mind taking us off or taking the Excel sheet off so that everyone can just see who's talking?
Everybody
It
can
is
see
off.
That's
On YouTube.
I stopped the
Yep,
presentation.
you might just need to refresh yours.
Yeah, I stopped that all several minutes ago.
Also, there's been some questions and concerns regarding the chat on YouTube that I think we should read off.
So
Just one quick second. Are we able to just not do donations, or do we have to still do something to keep our nonprofit? I don't know how that works. Or is it as long as it comes back to just going into the con, it doesn't really matter?
That's not a question that I have the answer to. Dave, you have your hand up?
Okay. From what I understand from talking to people in compliance at my job, while we're supposed to, because it says in the 501c3 give charities, give to charity, it's not a suicide pact. We have to give to charities. We can show to any audit saying, look at our dip in
Income?
thank you. Look at our dip in income. We could not contribute and still continue as an entity. And that's a good faith effort. We've made a good faith effort to donate. Even if for years we don't have to donate $40,000 anymore. There's no reason to do $40,000. That made us feel good, but we can be low until we can get to a reasonable seed that Troy wants. You said 150,000? Is that what you wanted, Troy?
I guess I didn't come up with a specific number, but
Who
you know,
did? Okay.
I'd mentioned going back a number of years that I thought the heavy focus on donating versus returning it back into Detour was eventually going to bite us, and COVID showed us where to do it.
And I would have to agree that just looking at our numbers, looking at our overall income organization wide, not just at the Detour level, the last 3 years that we did give, we raised those numbers too far too fast. We ended up giving out more those years than we did bring in. But hold on. So to get to the YouTube questions,
You're gonna have to scroll up a little bit. There's quite a bit.
oh no, I've been keeping track. So yes, I do agree, Christina. Looking at the GPS contract, with not having used it in, coming up on almost a year at this point, that is probably something that, if it's going to continue, we would need to look at cutting. It's if it's a space if it's a space that we're paying so much for but we have no use for, then that's literally burning our money. So that's I know that has been talked, and I think it's something at this point we do need to have a serious discussion about in the next month or so. As far as making the final decision, if that happens tonight, that's. I mean,
Do we have like a contract where we're committed? I assume so. I don't know.
yes, we do.
Yes, through 2023 or April of 2023.
Okay, so we can't change anything about it anyway,
Yes, we can.
right? We can.
Yes, there is. I would have to pull up the email. I don't know the whole. I don't know the whole thing by heart. I would have to look at it. That is why I suggest.
Pretty sure it's a year cancellation.
I know that's what Kim and Dave have said before. Dave.
GPS understands the situation. That's why we asked in August whether you could afford the payment last October. We were prepared, because due to the pandemic, to not request the payment, which is I asked the board before I was even on this board as a GPS treasurer 3 times. You guys can do this, right? So, if it needs to be done, we understand that unusual circumstances require unusual practices. We just ask as much warning as possible. We're not going to hold that to you because of a pandemic. Okay? Thank you.
That is, I know you said that before, and that is, each time you said it, that has been appreciated. So.
And it's just that one payment that right now you have forecasted at like 18,000, Kim, but it might be 9,000, and that's just on the spreadsheet one time.
Correct. It's only on the spreadsheet once. It's a $9,000 payment
Mm-hmm.
and a $9,000 matching based on what they bring in for income.
Mm-hmm.
So 9 is the base.
Right.
15 is the max.
Okay. So at this point, tonight, does the rest of the board feel comfortable making a decision on whether we should continue with the contract, or if we should cancel it at this time, and then have a conversation in the future once things begin to level out again. I said begin. Normal's a long time out, but
And that was next fall, was it? Like October or something? So, I mean, by then, we could be having things there again, theoretically, but I don't know.
and that's the thing that we've banked on this whole time is, hopefully it's going to clear up. Hopefully it's going to clear up. Hopefully it's going to clear up. At this time, projections are saying, especially, government jobs have had some of the strictest projections on the stuff. And I've been hearing a lot of the stuff that they're not going to be going there. They won't even be bringing people back to the offices until August, September. So, if that's the case, we're not any safer or better off to be gathering before then. So that puts us,
I think probably what we should do, because in October we'll have a different board, is that in July or whatever month it is, that is the first session with the new board, we should put that on the docket as a decision for the new board. I don't know if that makes sense.
I would prefer to make this decision far sooner, just for the sake of GPS. They've treated us well. They've treated us with respect. They've been good friends to us. And this, June, July, August, making those decisions, just a couple months ahead. I know that's we cannot hold ourselves responsible for their financial status. We can't run our business trying to help everybody else stay alive. That's gonna bleed us. So I would prefer to make this sooner than later to give them as much notice, so they're not scrambling as we've had to do.
Well, so what are the consequences of us canceling? What does that change?
That would be a David or Kim
Lots
question.
of things. I feel like we probably don't have enough information right now to make that decision like today.
I'm not quite sure understand what the question is for us. For us, ATC, technically 9,000, but I'm sure GPS, for some reason I know the inner workings, wouldn't request that. Are you talking about what's the impact on GPS?
Well, I'm just saying, so we were to cancel, what we pay you. Well, then if we still wanted to have anime detour meetings there, board meetings there, then we're paying those one at a time, or,
There's no center if you cancel. There's no center. Convergence canceled. They're not paying. So if you cancel, there is no center. There's no way to do it. But that's not your concern. That's not the concern of this board. It's putting on Anime Detour. So don't worry about that. That's my next.
So if we say, we're spending $9,000 to have this space to do things in person. Yes, we can't do things in person for, let's just say, next year, February 2022. So that's a whole year. But then when we want to do things in person again, we're going to have to rent hotel space. I don't know how much that costs. It's probably not $9,000 a year, but this is kind of, pros and cons of a conversation that I assume we would need to have before making this decision.
Right. Especially since the original idea of the 9,000, the 8,000 was never a 1-to-1 value ratio for rent.
Yeah.
It was to help out a charity. But again, it's not a suicide pact, and we understand that. And I got to use we twice. If we need money to keep Anime Detour, we need the money to keep Anime Detour or ATC.
Yeah, Troy, Could you get us some estimates on what it would be if we had to go back to monthly meetings at the hotel, having to rent that space? Unless that's a number you might know off the top of your head.
I mean, I don't know off the top of the head. Sometimes they build that into the contract. So
okay, is that a number you could ask and get an estimate on to see which would be the more cost effective solution?
I can, but other just putting it out there that the most attended previously staff meeting was due to the combination of a staff meeting and the election,
Yeah.
which have been separated.
Yeah, I don't know. I do agree. The last year they've been dropping off.
Now that we're including virtual meetings as a way of people to, well, not only as an offering, but also as a way for folks to get those voting rights. I don't know that, I don't know that we'll see the typical 30 or so people, not that there isn't a social element to it, but yeah, I mean, I know we have I don't know how much storage we have there, but I would imagine that what we have there for storage could probably be
Would probably fit in our
shifted to the
locker room.
Yeah, well, I do know for a fact that what we have as far as between our storage locker and the office at GPS, we have more than enough space to move that to our storage locker comfortably.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably some other alternatives. I mean, it's if times are changing, then we'll have to change with that and figure out a way to make do. If that means that and there's no real. Not every convention does it the same. It depends on size. Some people hold all their meetings at a hotel. I know that has some. I don't think we get as much attendance when we're at the hotel. I don't know if the parking, etc.
Especially since we've moved to the Hyatt, the parking's been prohibitive.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Definitely.
$25 for a 1 hour meeting. I've had problems justifying that driving down from St. Cloud.
Yeah. So, but there's other alternatives that are different than GPS currently is.
And I know Heather and Michael, sorry to interrupt you, Troy, but I just wanted to point out that Heather and Michael have been talking about renting spaces at local libraries in the chat there. That could definitely be an option for us.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, I think.
And then, probably, I mean, we were kind of talking about this anyway, where we're not really going to run any of our other orgs until we get Detour back the way it was. But, if we don't have the GPS space, SOS probably isn't going to be a thing, which is okay. It's just, I want to talk about all of the consequences before we make any decisions. And I don't know if we maybe should make a decision this month or just make sure we make a decision next month. That way everyone has time to think about it.
I would be more comfortable giving us a month to think about it and gather all the necessary information.
Okay, so I'll put it on the schedule next month, and maybe we should talk about this in Slack between meetings.
That is something that I would be comfortable with, as long as we can have a decision as soon as possible.
Okay.
Are there more questions in chat?
Meeting rooms. No.
Can we revisit the topic I was asking Troy?
Just one quick thing to answer Christina's question. Yes, you're right. Just SOS can still be a thing. It's with the lack of meetings. I know a lot of their events were physical, so it's going to be harder. It's going to be changing, but it's definitely still able to be a thing. So, sorry, Dave. Continue, please.
Okay. So, go ahead.
Sorry, no, you're good.
So, Troy, you had said something about a plan to get the actual, by the time we start working in December, an actual amount of money that is 1-to-1 to our budget. I don't know of a plan. It's not like I haven't thought about it. So the situation is, do you have suggestions?
I think
Does
a lot
anyone
of them
have suggestions?
have been touched on or said. I don't know that there's. I'm not in disagreement with you that there might not be much more to do, as long as all of the monies are looked at, are either going towards ATC operational expenses or back into detour. I do. I would say probably, other than Kim and maybe Tristan, I don't think anyone else has as in-depth a knowledge about the detour budget. So some of the larger picture concerns for me in not having the money available, like I said, is we have to make those hotel payments. We have to pay ahead of at least half. Usually it's half ahead of time to guests. So there does need to be a certain amount of money readily available, not waiting for registration to come in. Part of I think some of the issues that we're going to see is that, and they might not be, what's the word I'm looking for? There just might not be a way around it, but, we are contracted for the whole hotel. We have the whole hotel and all of the finances that go along with it. So we can shrink some of the offerings of Detour. And I think that could affect the attendance. An effect on attendance can affect the room attrition rate, which creates more of a financial hole. So I guess that's how, when I'm thinking of it, we can't just say, well, we'll offer them less of a con in the same contracted space, because that's definitely a money loser. But there just isn't a way around that. I mean, if that's what we can afford to put on, then that's what we can afford to put on. If we don't get the attendance needed, then we might have we have to make up that difference with the room attrition rate. Go ahead.
What is room attrition rate? Is that just us filling the hotels at the con space, or is it like the surrounding hotels too?
Well, if we have an overflow hotel, then they would have their own, sort of attrition rate set up for us. So in the contracts that I sent out yesterday, you can see all of that in there, that usually it's 80%. We have to sell 80% of the rooms. If we don't, then we have to make up whatever that difference is. If we only sell 75% of the rooms, we have to pay them that financial remainder. So it, normally, as we've always just about sold out, or we've had some last minute rooms open up and stuff like that, but hasn't been an issue. But yeah, it's something when we start talking about offering less of a convention, also, at the beginning, that could make it more difficult to market, so, there's a number of issues that, again, like I said, might not be avoidable, but as long as we're aware of them, we can only, I guess, do the best we can.
Well, I just wanted to be noted that the board has thought about alternative funding. It's not like we sat there and, and didn't think about it. I just personally do not know of a feasible way besides the hope and pray. Again, we just got GPS. It's never 18,000. So,
And
whatever.
Nicoloaf has asked if we're going to be doing any fundraising in the online convention. I know that's something I brought up at a staff meeting a while ago, but I didn't go to the last one, so I don't know if we thought about that more. I still say we should. I just don't know how to do it.
So I know
It's
that
like a tip jar during the event. It's not like a GoFundMe or anything. It's just like We're entertaining you. Throw us $5. You know, like a strip club.
We could also,
but
yeah, we
not.
could do a online version of the live auction.
Yeah, I think we did talk about this, but having the donation button at the very, very bottom. Oh.
Well, we got so hold on before we go too far. This is Troy's ballpark, so this is his answers that we need to be consulting here.
No, I'm just reminding.
I mean, we've talked about it in the early stages. I think, yeah, there's some concern over how to do it, and then there has been some concern brought up that with a much smaller engagement, managing our expectations there. If we're looking at maybe as many as 300 people, but it could be less. What are our expectations for donations?
Well, but even if we're not expecting much, $100 is still $100.
Yeah, I think part of there are definitely two schools of thought on asking for donations in that thing. There's sort of the heartfelt, this would work, and then some people find it, on a free event, they aren't as agreeable to it. So I suppose mileage might vary depending on who they are.
I mean, but that's the thing. It's a free event. They absolutely don't have to donate. Like I said, you just treat it like a tip jar. I don't understand the negativity behind it. Everyone does it. Every single thing I watch on the internet asks for donations or like and subscribe, blah, blah, blah. It's just how the world is now. It's fine.
How the world is now.
Yes, Dave, get with the times.
Oh, I'm totally out of the times. I still think that, the Beatles can get back together.
Sure, when one of them comes back to life.
But there were how many?
Yeah, two.
Like
there were
Michael
four.
said,
Two are dead. I was just saying two are dead.
That's where a
Two
lot
are
of
dead.
the internal donation stuff can, where $100 is $100, but what's the cost of the goodwill? That has to at least be a part of the equation.
Dave, you got your hand up. Troy, can you put yours down? It's been up for like 40 minutes.
Okay. So, I agree with Troy and I agree with Christina. Let me explain. I don't have a problem with having it. I think having it in the corner, unobtrusive. I don't want to nail these people. I don't want to be like on YouTube where you go like and subscribe every 34 seconds. I think that would be obtrusive and work against our online, what we want. Keep in mind us for 2022. But having a tip thing in the corner or whatever we do, Christina, that would be good. I don't think it's going to get that much, but hey, every little bit helps. Every finger in the dike, right? Or is that a too old a reference?
No, I get
It's
it.
about Holland. Okay.
With the flooding and the poke the holes.
Christina looked at me like
I don't
was
get
an
it.
idiot.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
okay.
I have
Yeah,
no
know.
idea.
I got it.
Do you know what a dike
No,
is?
Don't worry about it.
Like a ditch in the ground with
No,
water?
a dike is kind of like a dam. It's used. It's a giant wall of dirt built to hold back water. Think sticking your finger in a hole in a boat. You're sticking your finger in the dam to keep the water out.
Button says, I will leave all complaint messages for someone else to deal with, just saying.
Oh, she's talking about the
People
tip thing?
complaining about us having a tip jar.
So
That's fine.
like,
People complain about everything. It's okay.
I
it's
wouldn't
okay when
complain
you're
if it's not there, though.
doing it.
They'll find something else to complain about, Troy.
Yeah.
Sure.
You know what? I'm going to withdraw. My dog is the size of a Chihuahua, so I'm out of this. I'll go do programming.
Anyway, it was a question that was brought up in the chat. I know it doesn't technically belong in this conversation. It kind of does, only a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, as long as we don't do it the same way as OtakuCon did,
Otakon?
then
Uh-oh.
sorry, what?
Otakon?
That's how you pronounce it? Oh my god, I've been saying it wrong this whole time. Yeah, that con.
Welcome to my world, Hatora. Anyway,
Hey, I know 3 languages, so that's my excuse.
I'm
Fair.
old and decrepit. That's my excuse. It's true. Okay, so what else is there?
We've made some headway with the plan. You know, we nothing concrete that's gonna pull us out of the water by our throat and save the day. But we do have a plan, direction to go. That's at this point, it's at least given us a direction to start. Troy, do you have any other concerns about this that you would like to address? I don't want to just drop this like a hot rock or something. I'm just not sure what else. I've run out of topics that I can think of.
Yeah.
I guess that as was said at some point along the line, not in today's meeting, but that it is Anime Twin Cities' job to make sure that Anime Detour has the money to put on a convention. I can only put on a convention with the money that the board grants me. So that is my concern. That is why I ask, what is the plan? How are we getting to money? How much money will we have, etc. I think a lot of that has been answered, but that's essentially it. That I will only be able to do with what the board gives me. If that isn't enough, then that isn't a detour function. We will do the best that we can. We have the space contracted. If we start to lose attrition rate and things like that, those would be concerns, but I guess that's essentially it. I will mention, and sorry just to be Captain Negative, but I've seen a lot of people putting out there about why we didn't let membership know, and I had emailed the board about that and couldn't get a response back. Disappointing. If a coordinator can't email the board and get a response.
Do we have permission to email them? Because the topics come up before, and the last I had heard is there's a little checkbox on people's registration forms asking you if it's okay to email them.
Well, in the email that I sent, I specifically mentioned making a post. We don't need permission to make a post. And then we would have cross-posted that on Anime Detour stuff.
So the topic, okay, so
it got posted to the ATC staff page. What we probably should have done is posted it to the ATC page in general, which has about 1,000 people on it versus the 200 people on the ATC staff page. But
that would be my mistake.
that is not what happened. So that is where we are now.
Nope, that would be my mistake there. I clicked on the ATC page, or on the ATC icon, and posted. So that's my screw up there. But my question is, before tonight, what would we have posted? Is a 2-paragraph email describing what we think we might talk about, or just a little, couple sentences blurb, hey, this is happening?
Do you think that most Anime Detour staff are even aware of the financial situation? Or do you think that they were able to infer what deep dive means?
Okay, maybe I'm incorrect. Okay, I didn't make a decision on that because I don't post, but I would think that most people could, how do I say this without using the wrong tone? I think most people would understand that we're facing financial hardships because we didn't have a con last year because of the pandemic. I thought that would be a logical proceeding from one to another. I had no problem with posting your post, but I didn't think that people would be surprised that there was an issue. But I could be wrong. Frequently am.
That's all I have.
All right. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to discuss?
Actually, I was kind of serious on my question. Wasn't exactly rhetorical on what was wanted, because that was something that I was unsure of, and I got no response from most of the other board members to either Troy's email or my second follow up email. I only got a response from Kim and Hotora on that. Exactly what was expected of any notifications. Are we, were we looking for just a short little blurb? Because if I'm in charge of it, I would like to know what is expected of these things. Do we want a long multi-paragraph detail of what we think, or a short little, hey, this is what's happening, this is what we're going to be talking about, come join us? I'm really not sure, and I don't want to assume.
Well, I think one of the issues I see is we do such a stringent push, but only to staff, but we don't only collect $15 from staff. So are these people really members or just not? We're not informing our membership of what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, the board meetings are technically public. Anyone can watch it on YouTube. But yeah, we didn't really advertise it. They've never really been advertised that much in the past, though, either. But I don't think we would want to email like the 6,000 people that we have email addresses for from registration. We only have those from registration. But could we have done a better push on social media? Yes, but it didn't happen.
That actually is one question I would like answered, Troy, if you can get an answer, is if we can email them, or if there's a list that has been made. Like, I honestly don't know if I was told that there's a checkbox. Some people have checked it, some people have not checked it. That's not something I'm 100% on.
I think the validity of that checkbox has gone the way of the dodo. I think it pertains to a non-existent phantom newsletter.
Okay.
It might not be a place to go. I think, as Christina said, it might be best to just utilize that open ATC one. And yeah, you're not going to reach all 6,000 people, but if we're only focused on staff, then
no. And you're right. I did. That is something I do have to apologize for. I did go back and look, and it looks like I had been posting to the public ATC page, but the last few months, I don't know how I made the mistake, but I stopped posting to the ATC page and just started going only to the staff page. So that is my mistake. I would like to apologize for that. That was not intentional. I had meant to continue cross-posting to both.
It happens. Is it not on the website that the board meetings are public? I guess I'm.
They are. No, they are public.
Yes.
To read off of Nikolov Evans' messages or suggestions.
Go for it, please.
Okay. Perhaps the happy medium is to produce an outline of the situation and send it to the staff soliciting options. It doesn't need to be total chaos. And then the second thing he says is it's natural that we are going to disagree on stuff, but we all still want the same thing: keep ATC and Detour strong. I guess. Like, what kind of medium are you talking about, Meatloaf? Evan.
Unfortunately, I'm going to have to be right back. You may continue, but I got to do something.
Do we take a 5-minute break?
Well, while Nico's answering, Ingrid and Troy's questions, I could have sworn at one point it was posted. It did state. I'm going through the various pages on the websites right now, and I'm honestly not seeing anywhere where it lists that the meetings are open. So that's something we're going to need to address.
It's the events on. If you go to events on the Anime Twin Cities, it lists it as an event. I mean, it doesn't say it's private or public either way.
Yeah,
But
that's it's also under the events. It's under the calendar. I just found it as you were saying it. So that's something maybe we're gonna want to like pull to the front page or something. Or I don't want to start dictating what IT is gonna do, because that's something that has to be talked about after a separate discussion has to be had.
well, I was just thinking that we should, I guess maybe not take the address out of there, but add an additional line with the YouTube URL just for Anime Twin Cities. That way,
Absolutely.
there's a link to it. But
So I know some people have it on their calendar, but again, there's nowhere.
but
it
Kevin
says that it
doesn't
is
have
open to the
access
public.
to edit the calendar, so
Okay.
I think
Okay.
Tony did actually. So maybe Tristan, you can figure that out.
Okay. I think I have access to the calendar.
Possibly.
I know I do at the detour level, so maybe that's something I'd have to talk to Drew or Ashley about if I have those permissions. So simple colorful graphic that's really clear and outlines the numbers people care about. 1. How much ATC in the convention needs to make up. 2. How much registrations will affect that number. And 3. A list of options we've explored this far. Okay, that's okay.
That's good.
That's doable. That's something I think we as a board can come up with and get that posted. May take a couple of weeks, because life is life, but so yeah, definitely I will. I'm horrible at writing. People save me from myself sometimes, but yeah, so we can definitely get that started and get something presented, and especially now that we've got a little bit more concrete discussion on what needs to happen. So let me just take a quick note.
Putting it in the notes too.
Just to remind everybody. Okay, so there, made a note where all of us can see it, so I don't forget. Yeah, that's something I definitely like to forget. Not do, Evan, is make something long and complicated. So, thank you for that input. That's very helpful. I will be referring back to that quite often, probably. Okay. Anybody else have anything? And also thank you for the input on what to actually get posted. Just gonna give chat a minute here to catch up with anything if they need to. While in case anybody's still typing, please do not forget, we got this right down in the comments of the video here and in those first posts, that these meetings are counted for attendance regarding voting rights and other attendance-based issues in ATC. So please make sure that you are emailing Christina at atc_secretary@animetwincities.org with your username, first and last name, and then comment in the chat that you are here. so that you are counted in attendance. Thank you for that. Otherwise, at this point, I'm not seeing any other questions. I'm not hearing anything from anybody else in the call. So that would leave us with just adjourning the meeting. So at that point, that leaves us with March. We have the John and I looking at the recording of the board meetings, making a revision on that. You know, you're gonna we'll sit down and we'll have a discussion about that here over the next couple of weeks. Try to have something a little bit more in line based off of the responses we got from was it last month or the month before when we went over that, and then also the annual meeting discussion running for candidacy, because I know we have explicitly stated that in our bylaws now that the annual meeting, which is where we hold our board elections, cannot be held at the same time as the anime detour post-mortem, which is what they have been in the past. So we need to decide on a date that will happen, on a time period for which the voting will be open, and a couple other issues with that that need to be ironed out yet. So, all right then. Unless everybody else has got anything, I'm going to go ahead and end tonight's call. Thank you all for joining us. I'm sorry. I need to motion to adjourn the meeting.
I second the motion. Or
Okay.
she does.
All right then. Thank you all for coming tonight.
Oh, saying John may have something.
Oh,
John may have something.
No.
Oh.
We're
No,
voting.
he's just live long and prospering.
Oh, I thought he was like going. Oh, sorry. Apologize.
Yeah, no, I would have just spoke up.
he was fighting you to second the motion to go away.
Okay.
So, all right.
Hey, no, I'm not that mean.
All right. Thank you very much. You all have yourself a great evening. Please stay warm out there. It is, I would say it's ridiculously cold, but let's be honest. It's Minnesota. It's the winter. You've lived here. Most of us have lived here long enough to be used to it by now.
No, you never get used to it.
Yeah, we just deal with it anyways. So
It's only
Yes,
negative.
we
It's
deal.
only -1.
I'm
Speak for
still wearing
yourself.
shorts outside. So, all right. Thank you all, everybody. You guys have yourself a great night.